And welcome to the Epic Fantasy Book Club podcast. I'm Joe, here with me is my co-host Dan.
Hello and greetings. And before we get into it, we'd like you to subscribe. We're looking for 1,000 subscribers. Or
Share the video if you already have.
we won't complain if you want to give us 5,000 subscribes.
But the thing is, we're trying to get to there so that we'll publish for you the first chapter of a dark fantasy horror novel that we're working on. Anyways, on with the video. Now, this is going to be us analyzing chapter 2 through 4 of The Hobbit. Now, this is a lot of chapters. I've got a lot of notes, and I really like this part. It's probably one of the least exciting parts of the book, but it's freaking good.
Mm-hmm.
Now, as far as my notes go, I love how on page 35 you have Gale. Why didn't you dust the mantelpiece? We left a note behind it. Okay, so how is he supposed to know that you hid it from?
Unless Bilbo's essentially a bit of a clean freak.
Yeah, he is commented to be a clean freak. It's like, you're a clean freak. Why haven't you dusted the mantelpiece yet? I'm too busy washing the dishes. Maybe I'll clean the mantelpiece in a few days. No! No, Gandalf really didn't plan this out very well. It just humanizes Gandalf, and he becomes a bit of the butt monkey for a moment there, where Gandalf seems a bit like the buffoon.
Yeah.
And I like how we also find out on page 36 that Balin is typically the watch or the scout because he's got the best eyes, because he's the one who spots that they posted at the door of the inn and the Bywater Inn, and he's the first one to spot Bilbo running over. Real quick, what do you think of the part, but I have to... No, there's no time for that. What about... No, there's no time for that either. Get going. Gandalf's really rushing him.
Yeah.
It's basically, honey, get in the car. No, get in the car now, honey. Wait! It's just throwing him into the vehicle and driving off of him. I like how he's just like, well, I don't have a cloak or a coat or something. Dwalin is the one who lends him the jacket going, yeah, okay. Here you go.
But what about my handkerchief? You have Gandalf appearing with a bunch of handkerchiefs.
I love Gandalf. He's hilarious. We also find out on page 39 that Nori and Dory love eating as much as Bilbo does. So they're gluttons too. And they didn't take well to only having one supper on the journey. Or skipping them.
Yes, I mean, you need those 4 other suppers.
Yes, you do. Oin and Gloin are the fire starters. I get the feeling they're a bit pyromaniacal in a few scenes where they're like, no, we have to keep trying. It's like, guy, remember when they wanted to start a fire by the mouth of the cave? That could have suffocated them. I mean, it's basically, you want to start a fire in a closed-off room. Yes. Wow, these two are pyromaniacs.
You at least need some kind of chimney effect.
I just get the feeling they just like starting fires. Maybe they need to keep the matches away from those two lunatics. That's Oin and Gloin I'm referring to. Balin is confirmed to have the best eyes on page 39. And we get the trolls from, for almost 10 episodes. Not episodes, but pages. Wow, am I out of it? Anyways, now page 41, I think. Oh, mutton yesterday, mutton today, and blimey if it don't look like mutton again tomorrow. Well, you could try finding a pig or something instead. I don't know. Maybe you could have bacon. Sorry, but you have there are people who struggle to find something to eat every day, especially Middle Earth, and you're going to complain because you have an endless supply of mutton. Dude, be grateful. There are sheep all over that mountain. I'm just saying. And then they just keep fighting and fighting and fighting. What did you think of those 3 buffoons?
It's like, maybe they should be renamed as Larry, Curly, and Moe. The 3 Stooges.
That'd be apt. The first one they catch is Balin. And that's interesting. They sent Balin on ahead because of his eyes. but Balin does kind of get tricked by them. Then the order is Dwalin, I think, then Philly and Killy. Then it's Doria, Nori, and then Ori, and then Oin, Gloin, and Biffer, and Bofer, and Bomber. Then it's Thorin. It's interesting that Thorin's the last one caught, but the first one to be nixed, so to speak, in the story. I'm just saying, that's pretty interesting. It's also Thorin who puts up the best fight, although it is commented that Biffer and Bomber ended up putting up quite a bit of a fight. It happens pretty much off screen, but they tried to make a fight of it. So those two are slightly more warrior natured in some ways, or at least more fiery spirited. But Thorin does put up a good fight from page 47 to 48, where he sticks the torch in one of them's eye and another's mouth. But he gets snuck up upon and by William or Bill, we could also call him. That said, what do you think about Gandalf basically said? What was it? Shut up, or we'll never have done, and you can finish the water yourself if you say any more. Shut up yourself, from Tom to Bill. Who's arguing but you? I'd like to know. You're a booby, said William. Booby yourself. Who shall we sit on first? Better sit on the last fellow first. Don't talk to yourself, is Tom's reply to Bert. There. Then they just keep fighting, and then they fight over the color, because Gandalf keeps just throwing fuel into the fire. What do you think of that?
I've seen so many movies, cartoon, and anime do something like this, where you have three idiots, and you have the smartass just imitating their voices, turning them on each other. And this is probably the best version.
Yes, this is the OG version in some ways. I love how Tolkien does it. And the thing with Gandalf is, it shows his cunning. Does he need to turn to his magic to fight off the trolls or destroy them? No. What does he just simply do? He basically just tells them, he gets them fighting. And what's the thing? He basically is the one to tell them, it's now dawn has arisen. Now, they also find in the cave two swords, Orcrist and Glamdring, both forged in the days of Gondolin. When we get to our Silmarillion book podcast in about around probably in a few months, we'll end up reading all the versions of the story of Gondolin, and then you'll see there's a lot of lore there. It helps explain Glamdring. Glamdring was the sword of King Turgon, the great king of Gondolin. And when I say great, I do mean great. Think Priam from Troy.
Mm-hmm.
That said, you want to know what's funny? Elrond is a descendant of King Turgon. So when he IDs this sword, who's actually the heir? The legitimate heir to that sword? Elrond. But what does he end up saying? Good luck, Gandalf. Keep it. I don't mind. That's quite the nobility of character. Mm-hmm. He has no possessiveness. As to Orcrist, it was forged for probably one of many great warriors to fight against, the orcs. Because, you got to fight off Morgoth. And you can't do it with frying pans. I don't care what Tangled says. The frying pans may be good. But in this case, Morgoth's playing for keeps. And maybe if they had used the same metals to forge Glamdring, to forge 10 trillion frying pans, maybe they could have done it. But anyways.
I mean, mystical frying pans. You can't go wrong with that.
No, you can't. Now, they do find other treasure that they bury. What role do you think that treasure is going to play later?
Extra backup supplies, or
Basically, a fortune for at the end of the story.
Yeah.
Yep. Who do you think gets it all?
Bilbo?
You guessed it. Uh, now we get introduced to Rivendell. Oh, by the way, Lonely Mountain and Wilderland. The Wilderland is between them and the Lonely Mountain, it seems. That's on page 54. Before we can come into Wilderland Beyond. Yeah. And it is a deal of a way even from the other side of them to the Lonely Mountain in the east where Smaug relies on our treasure. Yeah. Now, what's interesting is also how Rivendell is just so pleasant, Bilbo didn't want to leave it. That'll play a role in Lord of the Rings, because where do you think Bilbo decides to settle down?
Mm-hmm.
And you can already see that Elrond's cool chap. Contrary to the Hugo Weaving portrayal in the movies, where he's just this perpetually pissed off guy who's always angry and shrieking at people or scowling at them, and it's like, dude, you know who he reminds me of in the movies? Eddie Brock, with just how angry he is. Cost me my job, my health, my apartment. That's Elrond in the movies, but in the books, he's more Madam Web in a way.
He's far more calm,
noble,
and it's like, oh, it's good to have some non-elves to visit. I mean, sick and tired of these.
And what do you think of the elven song that plays on right here? Like, oh, what are you doing and where are you going? Your ponies need shoeing. The river is flowing. Here down in the valley. That actually is a little creepy. To me, I had images of, why are you saying the river is flowing? Are you planning to drown me? But they just seem to mock and take nothing seriously. But at the same time, I can't help but, like they say, what brings Mr. Baggins and Balin and Dwalin down into the valley in June? Ha ha. Oh, will you be staying or will you be flying? Your ponies are straying. The daylight is dying. To fly would be folly. To stay would be jolly. And listen and hark till the end of the dark to our tune. Ha ha. They're mocking. But
yeah, and if I'm not mistaken, Elrond does make a comment that it's nice to have some non-flighty, some non-elves that aren't so flighty.
But why do you think they're flighty? I think they come off a little depressed.
Yeah.
They're a little too... Like, you gotta bear in mind, they're immortal. Why are they acting so flighty? I think that they're just... There's an element of depression. And when you read... After reading the Silmarillion, you really get the vibe that they're just...
Mm-hmm.
They're not happy with the situation. And part of them are tired. There's a weariness. But they force themselves to mock everything that they see. And that's actually a terribly sad thing. That's a terribly sad thing to be kind of life to be living. To an extent. Now, yeah, we get the Gondolian swords. Am I writing? Oh, and I like how Elrond is the one who figures out the there's another thing. Glamdring translates as foe hammer. I just remembered that. I like how it's Elrond who ends up finding the moonlighters, where they'll shine only in the moonlight. What do you think of that? I thought that was pretty neat.
Mm-hmm.
It never would have occurred to me to make up something like that.
There's a certain amount of beauty in it.
Yeah, and mysticism. And I like how Elrond just reads it, and Gandalf is a little vexed. Him and Thorin, because they're going, hey, we didn't find those. Well, you weren't looking for them. That Elrond doesn't say that, but he does because he's too modest and humble. But anyone else, what would they have said? Because you weren't looking for it. I was. And, of course, we're introduced to the idea of Durin's Day. Durin's Day seems to be when the last moon of autumn and the sun are in the sky together. That's it. And then after that, it'll probably become winter. What do you think of that basically being, I think, the start of the Dwarven New Year? So that means that their years start with winter.
Mm-hmm.
psychologically, does that mean they start in a more? Does it start more depressedly, thematically, and that's a bit of their bleak outlook on life, or that they have the mindset life's harsh, and you have to be really tough to deal with it. Is that the sort of mindset that they have?
Yeah.
Like, I'm wondering about that. I think it's really interesting. Do tell me in the comments what you think of that. And we also get the commentary on page 69 that Philly and Killy are often sent to look ahead because they have very sharp eyes, and as they're the youngest of the dwarves by some 50 years. Wow. They always got the odd jobs. When everybody could see that. Okay, when they could see that, it's no use sending Bilbo ahead. So when they can't get Bilbo to do the dirty work, they just send Philly and Killy to do it. Or occasionally Balin, but Balin has the best eyes, but Philly and Killy are the youngest, so
they get all the grunt work.
Well, it's get good, scrub. That's the mindset, I think. Then you get... I like how even Gandalf doesn't even see the goblins coming. That's a very human moment. Gandalf is not omniscient. Now
he seems all-knowing.
But then in that moment it shows. He does not see or know everything.
Even he falls asleep.
Yes, and what's his immediate reaction at seeing the goblin's face right above him? Zaps him with electricity. It's one of the... we see battles later in the series where he does not use magic, even in the heat of battle. He does not want to depend upon it. But in that moment, what does he turn to? In a moment of fear?
A surprise. Zap!
Yes. Which is very human. And honestly, I like how he just cooks and he just kills those two goblins. I think it's two of them. And it's a moment of bewilderment and startlement. Let me find the scene. Where was Gandalf? No, wait. Yell had done that much good. It awakened him up wide in a splintered second. And when goblins came to grab him, there was a terrific flash like lightning in the cave. A smell like gunpowder, and several of them fell dead. Okay, it's not two of them, it's several. So, it's more than two. But the fact that he was startled and he was scared. It's a very interesting moment. And it does come out of nowhere like that. Tolkien does a great job of that scene where even you feel like, whoa, at the goblins coming to grab him. You almost feel like you're Gandalf going, whoa, what are these ugly green freaks coming at me? Zap.
Out of my face,
scrub. But what do you think of the weird, really poor song of these goblins? They really can't sing. I like how Tolkien balances the mockery of the elves with the eloquence of the dwarven songs, and yes, even to an extent the elven one, with just the uncouthness of this orc song of clap, snap, the black crack, grip, grab, pinch, nab, and down, down to Goblin Town you go, my lad. They're wannabes. But I think that's purposeful. We're supposed to think these are uncouth beasts with nary the civilized nature of the actual children of Iluvatar. And the thing is, orcs are perverted elves and humans, but perverted by Morgoth and Sauron's magic. And they cannot create, and I get the feeling they cannot create they can't co-create either. They cannot create good music or poetry. Good music or poetry is a force of, good. And that's the difference. Good. You have to bear in mind in fantasy, all fantasy, I think, abides by these rules established by Tolkien. Evil cannot create, it can only twist into form. Good can create. And, that's actually really interesting. Creation itself is good. Destruction is bad. And, I know it seems very childlike, but that's even Dragonlance, even the Belgariad, even Prydain, every fantasy you've seen generally operates by these rules. Now, some don't, and the ones that don't are really bad. So we're not going to go there. Now, uh, after this, and then there's the goblins who eat the ponies and the horse. What'd you think of that?
Oh, poor ponies. Oh, great. They're going to have to walk there now.
Yeah. And and they also eat donkeys. Okay, I don't know why that had to be added.
Well, they're all beasts of burden.
Yep. I think it is supposed to pull at our heartstrings. And you kind of do, but the problem is Tolkien didn't really get us attached to them. He didn't give them names. He didn't differentiate them. If let's say I was Homefinder from Dragonbone Chair, my heart would have been torn. You know why? Like, oh, not Homefinder. But now I'm not saying Tolkien's a bad author here. I'm just saying later authors would kind of correct this mistake of not really getting us too warmed up to the ponies and horses. We feel a little bad, but then we're like, whatever. It is the goblins. They are evil. Whereas later authors would go, well, no, let's have the audience actually care about them. That said, Tolkien is telling a great story. And then we get the, on page 73 and 74, the implication that orcs like to create wheels and engines and explosions, always delighted them. And that they work their hands for the destructive side of technology, which that's an interesting association.
Mm-hmm.
Tolkien is subtly, I think, suggesting that weapons of destruction and whatnot, and these, I'm going to say weapons of mass destruction and whatnot, like the negative side of war, who is he associating it with? The bad guys, the orcs, which this is a very subtle but very crafty storytelling mechanism in this first book in the series. Now, in the Silmarillion, you'll see that it's like his universe is so freaking gray that it's unreal, almost. Well, I don't mean I'm being hyperbolic there. Like, his universe is freaking gray by nature. There are characters who are absolutely good and characters who are absolutely bad, just as there are in real life. But there's also people who are in the middle. And the thing here is that the orcs delight in the creation of evil technology. And this is really interesting. They want to control and destroy with their tech. In contrast to, say, the dwarves who want to build up. Now, the dwarves do occasionally give in to their negative instincts. But I ask you, do they then start to resemble more the orcs or humans in that situation? If you consider the good in man.
Then it would be more the orcs.
Yeah, so you've got, or maybe we should say, use the hobbits as a symbol of good here. Do they start behaving more like hobbits or orcs there? Like, I'm just saying, there's a very interesting statement about the nature of the characters and the journey they're on inside their own hearts. I also like the great goblin that he just flies into a fit over Orcrist or Goblin Cleaver, or that the orcs uncouthly call Fighter. Now,
I will unleash my great sword, Biter.
Yeah. Then there's Foehammer, that I think they know as Cleaver or something. No, Beater. Beater. They have no creativity, but that's the idea. They're the uncouth fanatics. They're the religious fanatics in a way, or the political extremists.
I suppose to them, that's what these swords are there for.
Yeah,
to beat them and to bite them.
But
no need to go into any elaborate details in their minds.
It's also interesting that Glamdring is so magical that in the dark and when near orcs, it starts to glow and desire to cut them. I think that's seeking vengeance of sorts for the death of Turgon.
That's possible.
And that it wants to bring them to justice.
Mm-hmm.
And it wants to fulfill its last duties. But it starts to glow with a light, so they start to follow that light. Now, you got to bear in mind, this is also a gift from Elrond in a way, because yes, I know they found it in the troll cave, because the trolls plundered it from plunderers who plundered from other plunderers or something. But the thing is, uh, who must have plundered Moria? But the thing is, this is really Elrond's heritage. Like this is his inheritance. And he said, "Yeah, you can keep it, Gandalf. I don't mind. You found it. You keep it, bro. But by right, it should probably go to him. But he has no problem giving it away and saying, "You'll do great things, Gandalf. We're good friends. Take it. What's mine is yours, and what's yours is yours, essentially." And the thing is it Elrond in a metaphysical way or thematic way helping guide the party through this mountain and helping guide Gandalf out of the darkness?
Quite possibly.
I can't help but wonder if thematically that's what we're supposed to think. That Elrond and Turgon are guiding the heroes. And even by extension, to an extent, Turgon's heir, Tuor, who was the chosen one of Ulmo, the god of the sea, and the greatest champion of mankind and elvish kind, amongst the Valar. So I wonder if we're supposed to look at it that way, with Glamdring being all these beings trying to guide the heroes down the right path. Because, yeah, I know I'm reading a lot into Glamdring there, but they're lost in the darkness at first. And the sword gives them light. And it really brings to mind also Excalibur.
Yes.
Because I've seen stories where Excalibur starts to glow. And hum almost with the desire to do good. And this is something I always found very interesting. As the sword having personality in fantasy fiction is really cool.
Yeah.
And I like the idea that it goes back to Tolkien, to the founder. Because that's not Howard. That's more Tolkien who give the sword a personality. And we know, like in Sukodan, for example, the later day example would be the Star Dragon sword or the Dragon King sword. Now that said, because Bilbo's so slow, the dwarves end up carrying him through the mountains.
Like a sack of potatoes.
Yeah, let me find it on page 78. Who was the first one to do it? Let's see. Oh, I think it was Philly and Killy who started. Oh, whatever. It's always those two. But then the one who drops him is Bomber. Because Bomber is too fat. And he's sweating until he can't see. Because of the heat and his terror. Now, Bomber, the fat here, is actually the lazy one and going, "Why, oh, why did I ever bring a wretched little hobbit on a treasure hunt?" So we get a bit of his personality. He's a little self-pitying and whiny. And you know who you remind me of? Obi-Wan Kenobi. Just like, dude,
stop your whining.
Now, that said, we get Bilbo right before that. "Why, oh, why did I ever leave my hobbit hole? Why, oh, why did I ever bring a wretched little hobbit on a treasure hunt?" Like, they're both whiny, and they both remind me of Obi-Wan Kenobi.
I took it as Bilbo starts whining, the dwarf starts whining as a retort. More like, shut up.
Just be glad I'm carrying you here, moron. Yeah, I agree. I just thought, Bomber, like, don't sink to Bilbo's level. You're better than this.
Apparently not.
Yeah, apparently not. Now, I love Bilbo. He's my favorite character in the novel. And he ranks in my top 3 favorite characters of Tolkien's Legendarium put together. But, man, is he whiny. I love Bilbo. I love Bilbo. And then we get Dory, who ends up carrying Bilbo, and it's Dory who fumbles things up and, drops him. Now, what's interesting is that Oin and Gloin are the ones who are the pyromaniacs. Philly and Killy always get the dirty work. Bomber's the glutton, so are Oin and Gloin. And Nori and Dory... Yeah, no, wait. Philly and Kelly get all the dirty work. Oin and Gloin loves to start fires for pyromaniacs. And Bomber is fat, but he put up quite the fight earlier. So he does have a fiery side. He's just, once ignited, he's just lazy. And I guess a bit of a glutton like not Oin and Gloin, but like Nori and Dory, who love eating and want several meals extra a day. So it's Dory, one of the gluttons, who drops Bilbo. So I just I just get annoyed when people say, well, none of the dwarves have personality except Thorin. Well, as we're reading this, I want to get all the different deeds and complaints in lines right for each character so that we get a proper feel for each of their personalities. And it's also why I want to characterize what they were eating, what they were drinking, what they wear to an extent, their different little habits, because I think Tolkien, through these mechanisms, is telling us a lot about their personalities.
And Tolkien is probably the one that started all this symbolism everywhere we go.
Yes, he is.
Because in many different works of fiction, for example, a while back we watched Pokemon I Choose You, and we always saw Ash in a field of yellow flowers. The yellow flower symbolism, happiness, friendship,
the sun.
It's like victory, gold. The yellow flowers represents that. We see origins of symbolism like that in Tolkien.
Yes, everything has a symbol in his story, especially the poems and riddle contest between Bilbo and Golem or Smeagol. And let's see, the next book club video, because we're reaching the end of this video, will probably just be I just want to make sure I get this right. I'm just looking through the chapters right now. You know what? It'll just be chapter 5 next time, because the thing is, Riddles in the Dark is going to be... There's a lot to talk about with that one. And we're going to... that'll be our next Hobbit video, or Tolkien video. And I just think that chapter is one of the most interesting in the book, on a thematic and poetic, as well as a symbolic level. Mm-hmm. And it really cuts to the core of the battle between good and evil and the very nature of it. With Bilbo being good, and yes, there are layers, because I know he takes the ring, but he steals it unfairly and uses this dark sin of his for his own advantage. But at the same time, the words that come out of his mouth represent the ultimate force of good, versus Smeagol, who speaks of destruction and nihilism, like Morgoth and Sauron and Saruman do. So you have this clear and even Wormtongue. So you have this clear division between good versus evil. And one speaks of positive energy and ideas, the other negative. And there's something thematic and almost metaphysical happening between the two, where their spirits are in battle without them ever drawing a blade or something. And we'll talk more at length the next time. Now, if you like this video, like, comment, tell us what you think of these chapters. And you know what? Tell us what you're looking forward to in chapter 5. It's a great chapter. One of the best out there. And don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already, and share the video. We're trying to get to 1,000 subscribers, as we said, to get to publishing the first chapter of a dark fantasy horror novel that we've been working on for a little bit. And we'll do that as soon as we get to 1,000, if we get to 1,000 before April. So we're counting on you guys. And as Zordon would put it from Power Rangers, may the power protect you all.